You need to be more grateful. I'm doing all this for your baby. Unless you don't want people celebrating your child. My mother-in-law's voice carried across her immaculate living room, where 20 of her friends' women, Primera Barreli Caneo, had gathered for the surprise baby shower I had specifically told her I didn't want. Her perfectly lined lips formed a tight smile as everyone turned to stare at me. 7 months pregnant and cornered. I smiled like I agreed while everything inside me shifted.
Can you believe she said that to me? In front of everyone?
I whispered later to my husband in the car. His response was the line that landed like a brick through glass. Mom put a lot of effort into this. You're being hormonal and ungrateful. You need to apologize to her. I met Jason 5 years ago at a mutual friend's housewarming party. I was there helping with setup, arranging food platters, and making sure everything was perfect. My usual role. I've always been the reliable one, the person who makes things happen without needing the spotlight. Working as a project manager for a construction firm had honed my organizational skills to a fine point. My life ran on schedules, clear communication, and respect for boundaries. Jason stood out immediately, though, with kind eyes that crinkled when he laughed. He brought homemade salsa that he insisted on serving himself, because the ratio of chips to salsa matters. That attention to detail resonated with me. We talked all night about everything from childhood memories to career ambitions. 3 dates later, I knew this was different from previous relationships. He listened. He remembered details. He respected my space. We moved in together after a year. Our apartment became a haven of shared routines, Sunday morning coffee on the balcony, trading sections of the newspaper. His arm draped casually over my shoulder. I had never felt so effortlessly comfortable with anyone. When he proposed during a hike to our favorite overlook, I didn't hesitate. His family seemed warm at our engagement dinner, especially his mother, Diane, who hugged me and said, "Finally, a daughter who understands family comes first." Back then, I still believed effort would earn respect. The wedding was perfect, small, intimate, with personal touches that reflected both of us. We wrote our own vows. Mine included promises about honesty and partnership. His mentioned protection and family. Everyone commented on how in sync we were, how we complemented each other. I felt invincible standing next to him, like we'd created an unbreakable circle of trust. I remember the exact moment that circle cracked. We'd have been married for just over a year when I came home early from work with a migraine. From the bedroom, I heard Jason on the phone in the kitchen. His voice had that particular tone he used when talking to his mother, slightly higher, more deaf. "I know, Mom, but she's pretty set on waiting another year before trying." "No, I'm not letting her control everything, ... Yes, I know what Dad's health is like. I understand you want grandchildren. While he can still enjoy them, ... There was a long pause before he said, "I haven't exactly told her about Thanksgiving yet. She thinks we're staying here this year." I stood frozen, my head pounding harder. We had explicitly discussed staying home for Thanksgiving, our first as a married couple in our new house. We'd already planned the menu, discussed which friends to invite. I'd even ordered a specialty turkey from a local farm. "I'll work on her," he continued. "Don't worry, we'll be there." When he ended the call, I waited 5 minutes before emerging from the bedroom, pretending I'd just arrived. I didn't confront him that night. Or the next day. I placed that moment where I keep things I can't unknow. 2 weeks later, he casually mentioned over dinner that his mother was really hoping we'd come for Thanksgiving. When I reminded him of our plans, he looked surprised, as if we'd never discussed it. "But it might be Dad's last good Thanksgiving," he said, his eyes wide with practiced concern. His father, while in his 70s, was in perfect health aside from mild arthritis. I conceded. I rearranged everything, canceled orders, and called friends to explain. I told myself it was compassionate, that relationships require flexibility. Jason was so grateful, so attentive the week before the trip, bringing home flowers and my favorite desserts. "You're amazing." It kept sailing, the best wife anyone could ask for. Thanksgiving at his parents' sprawling colonial home was picture perfect. Diane had placed formal name cards at the table, positioning Jason next to her and me, between 2 elderly aunts who spent dinner discussing their gallbladder surgeries. After the meal, while I offered to help with dishes, Diane patted my hand. "No, dear, Jason mentioned you're not much of a cook. Better leave this to the experts. Jason, within earshot, said nothing. That night in the guest room, he held me close under the heavy quilt his grandmother had made. Wasn't that perfect? Whispered. Mom was so happy to have everyone together. The moonlight through lace curtains cast lattice shadows across his contented face. The house smelled of cinnamon and furniture polish. Sounds of the dishwasher humming downstairs, despite my unease. There was undeniable warmth in being part of something established, generations deep. I didn't realize how much those quiet rituals would cost later. The first time I noticed the pattern was when we discussed buying a house. I had researched neighborhoods for months, weighing commute times, school districts, and investment potential. I created spreadsheets, contacted agents, and arranged viewings. When I showed Jason my top 3 choices, he nodded appreciatively. These are great, babe. But Mom mentioned there's a house coming available in their neighborhood. The Petersons are moving to Florida. Wouldn't it be perfect to be close to family? His parents lived 45 minutes from my office, in the opposite direction from everything we discussed wanting. When I pointed this out, he looked disappointed. I thought you'd be more open-minded. Mom said you might be difficult about this. That phrase, Mama said, became a recurring theme. Mom said I should try a different hairstyle. Mom thought our furniture was too modern. Mom worried I worked too many hours to properly take care of a family. Each comment came wrapped in concern, impossible to challenge without seeming defensive. The house we eventually bought was 15 minutes from his parents' compromise that Jason presented as his great concession. It was a lovely colonial with good bones, but outdated everything. I spent weekends painting, refinishing floors, and updating fixtures while Jason visited his parents. Mom's helping me plan a surprise for you, he'd explain. The surprise turned out to be curtains for our living room, heavy brocade, and a burgundy that clashed with everything I'd done. Mom spent weeks finding the perfect fabric. Jason beamed as Diane installed them herself, rearranging my carefully placed furniture to better showcase her contribution. I thanked her warmly, while mentally calculating how long I needed to leave them up before accidentally damaging them in the wash. It's funny how imbalance hides in everyday chores until it doesn't. Then I became pregnant. We had been trying for a few months, and the positive test filled me with a complex mixture of joy and apprehension. Jason was ecstatic. He called his mother before the test strip had dried. That night, he held me close in bed, his hand protectively over my still flat stomach. "This changes everything," he whispered. "Nothing will ever be the same." The bedside lamp cast a warm glow over his face, his eyes bright with unshed tears. In that moment, my doubts seemed small and mean-spirited. This was what mattered: building our family, creating something lasting together. Diane arrived the next day with books, baby catalogs, and strong opinions. "William's babies always come early," she informed me. "Though there was no medical basis for this claim. You'll need to stop working by 7 months." That's what I did. When I explained that my job offered excellent maternity benefits, and I planned to work until my due date, she exchanged a look with Jason. Later, he suggested I was putting career before family already. At 6 months pregnant, I developed gestational diabetes. My doctor prescribed a strict diet, regular monitoring, and stress reduction. Diane interpreted this as her cue to take over my nutrition. She began dropping off daily meals or William's family recipes, all completely inappropriate for my prescribed diet, all presented with such loving concern that refusing them made me the villain. The baby shower was the breaking point. I had explicitly told both Jason and Diane that I didn't want one. Large gatherings exhausted me. My diabetes made eating at parties complicated, and most importantly, I didn't want to sit through hours of unsolicited advice from women I barely knew. "That's fine, dear," Diane had said with a tight smile. "Not everyone